Hello, I'm Molly Hughes in the Denver Post newsroom, coming to you with breaking news at this hour. This report about Tom Brady being penalized by the NFL. He has been suspended for the first 4 games of the upcoming season. The team has been fined $1 million and 2 draft picks. All of this for what has become known as DeflateGate. Last week, you may recall, the NFL handed down its investigation indicating that 2 staffers, equipment staffers, were indeed deflating the game balls to Tom Brady's liking. So that is the background on that. The suspension just coming down right now. Right now, I want to bring in Troy Renck. He is the beat writer, the head beat Broncos writer for the Denver Post. Troy, your initial reaction?
Not surprised. All indications, Molly, were that he was going to be suspended based on 2 things. One, an integrity of the game issue, and secondly, the lack of cooperation with the investigation. And you see the kind of the heavy hand, if you will, relates back to the Patriots' trouble with the league dating to Spygate. But in Brady's case specifically, Molly, it was the lack of cooperation that really hurt him. Did not turn over his cell phone. I can understand why, but he didn't. And the Patriots didn't make available those locker room attendants you spoke of for more than one interview. So the league comes down hard on him. Now we'll see what happens on appeal.
And what do you make of these 2 draft picks? Does that help the Broncos? Does that hurt the Broncos?
Anything that doesn't help the Patriots helps the Broncos. They have, now they finally get to play them at home in November for the first time in years, the way the schedule finally falls. But this could help the Broncos in terms of maybe, if they win the division and AFC supremacy where they get the home field throughout the playoffs. Remember, when the Broncos went to the playoffs a couple years ago, that happened for one reason. They played the Patriots in Denver. Denver has not had much success, whether it's Peyton Manning or any other quarterback, winning at New England. So if the Patriots, if this suspension holds for 4 games, say they go 2-2, that could be the difference, theoretically, of the Broncos winning AFC supremacy. It'll still be tight. It's going to be tough for the Broncos, but this move helps all other AFC teams that are chasing the Patriots. Okay.
And you mentioned if this holds, because there's already talk that Tom Brady may appeal, right? How would that work?
Well, he'll appeal to Goodell. The ruling came down from Troy Vincent, and then he has the right, as every player would, to appeal. And there is some feeling that it might be reduced. I don't think the other sanctions will, the $1 million fine and the 2 draft picks, but there's a possibility on appeal that he could get it. I thought all along it'd be 4-game suspension, reduced to 2 on appeal. But the strong wording in this letter, especially the lack of cooperation with the investigation, he may not get it. But if he doesn't, if the suspension holds for 4 games, his first game back, and this is just absolutely delicious, would be against the Colts, the team that turned him in the AFC title game. So, man, if you're the Colts, you better figure out a way to stop the Patriots, because that game could be 72-0.
All right, so let's just break it down for people. So first 4 games would be Pittsburgh, Buffalo, Jacksonville, and Dallas. All right, so those are the 4 games he would miss if that suspension holds. I know you've talked to some of the Broncos already. What kind of reaction are you hearing from Dove Valley?
Just initial reaction from a few players was wow, because they didn't think that he would be suspended. Tom Brady is the face of the NFL right now, and he has been, you can argue, along with Peyton Manning for the better part of a decade. So there was definitely some skepticism among players that Goodell would drop the hammer on him, and frankly, for good reason. The suspensions in the NFL, whether on field or off, have been so arbitrary through the years, it's impossible to predict how they'll handle this. But, Chris Harris, for one, said, wow, we'll see what this means on appeal, but he was surprised. A couple other players, didn't want to use their names behind it, but said they were surprised. This, again, it helps the Broncos. They don't play them till November, so it doesn't help them in terms of head-to-head, but it could help them in terms of overall record. But the NFL, given the current climate after last year, and those were off-field issues, so let's not confuse what Tom Brady did with some of these off-field issues they dealt with. But the reality is people wanted to see the NFL act harshly toward their star player, and they did.
And let's talk a little bit about how this may change things going forward. I know Tom Brady was instrumental in the rule change that allowed home teams or each team to provide their own balls for the game. And there was a lot of soliciting to other NFL quarterbacks. Is that correct, to get this rule implemented?
Yeah, and back in 2006, he reached out to Jake Plummer, then the Broncos quarterback, and he reached out to Peyton Manning, who was obviously with the Colts at that time, trying to get the protocol change where the visiting team quarterback could basically bring his own footballs to the game. Because the old way, Molly, was that the visiting quarterback wouldn't get a chance to deal with the game balls provided by the home team until warm-up. So it could be a balloon ball, it could be slick, it could be all those things, and that could affect performance. So he went to Manning and Plummer, and they went to the league, and they got it changed. And if I'm Tom Brady right now, Molly, I say I went to this, and that's part of the reason this happened, is that I never thought I was doing anything wrong. I obviously screwed up, and mea culpa, and move on. Because to continue to deny it and act ignorant to the whole situation is just a bad look for Tom Brady.
And do you foresee any locker room or equipment changes, rules in that regard as a part of this? I mean, I feel like they're just going to be watching like hawks on those game balls.
Well, you could always store them in the humidor. That's a safe place. The Rockies keep their baseballs. But seriously, they're going to change the protocol that the footballs, there's going to be somebody in the league's going to get a nice job that goes around to every game and watches that the ball never goes out of sight of a league official before the game. That's what's going to happen. It happened with the Rockies in the humidor a few years ago when the Giants complained that baseballs need to be taken out of the humidor, and they never leave the sight of an umpire and or major league official. I'm sure something similar will happen in the NFL to ensure that there's some independent set of eyes keeping their eyes on this football. Because that's, if you look at the Wells report, there was 1 minute and 41 seconds where the footballs are not accounted for. I mean, and that's part of the big issue here, is that why did that happen? But clearly, Molly, they don't think it's a big competitive advantage because they let it happen in the first half when they knew there was an issue. The issue is like pine tar on a baseball. It is a rule. Whether it should be or not is a debate. He got caught, he broke the rule, and he got suspended. And I think if you're Tom Brady, at some point you have to move forward. And just like I said, I don't want to say come clean, but articulate why it happened and then move forward. Stop playing this idea of, I don't know anything, I don't know anybody. I mean, that's not working.
Mm-hmm. And this was a very comprehensive report. We're talking about 243 pages. How would an appeal work if he is to appeal as is expected?
He'll appeal to directly to Goodell. That's the thing about the NFL that's always been odd to me, is that, one guy is both the judge and the jury, and that's a difficult place if you're a player. Now, he'll appeal to the NFL commissioner and try to ask for leniency as a first-time offender, I'm sure. What hurts Tom Brady are two things. Again, New England's history of breaking the rules with Spygate, which really bothered the NFL because it was the competitive advantage issue. And secondly, it's the fact that they didn't comply with the investigation. And Bill Polian, a former GM who was in Troy Vincent's role in terms of fining and discipline people, made it very clear last week on ESPN that teams sign affidavits saying they're not doing anything against the rules, and if they do, they are going to comply. This isn't a court of law. This is a private business who creates its own rules. So the rest of us can say, I'm Tom Brady, I wouldn't have turned over my cell phone, but that's not the rules the NFL laid forth when they investigate you. So now they're upset, and they went after him and dropped the hammer, and they backed themselves into a corner, Molly. Had they not suspended him, everyone else would have said, why do we bother on the report, and why do we have rules if you're not going to apply them to the star player?
Mm-hmm. Anything else, Troy, you want to add before we go?
No, just keep an eye on the appeal. I still think it's going to get reduced to 2 games. But, again, it could end up helping the Broncos if, for some reason, the Patriots lose any games Tom Brady suspended. That could ultimately help the Broncos in their bid to get AFC top seed.
All right. Troy Renck, the head Broncos beat writer here at the Denver Post. Thank you, Troy, for joining us via Skype there. So there you have it, a wrap-up of this breaking news. Tom Brady suspended for the first 4 games of the season. So that would be Pittsburgh, Buffalo, Jacksonville, and Dallas, although he is expected to appeal, and as you heard Troy say, probably get it reduced to 2 games, but also a $1 million fine and the loss of 2 draft picks in the upcoming seasons. That is the very latest as the NFL hands down its sanctions against Tom Brady and the New England Patriots for what has become known as DeflateGate. And tomorrow on the Sports Show from 1 to 3, you can be sure Troy and Les Shapiro and Woody Page will be talking about this, and we'll also have updates at denverpost.com throughout the evening. For now, I'm Molly Hughes in the Denver Post newsroom with this breaking news report.